The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was silent, a rare occurrence in a place usually filled with the hum of debates and the clatter of alien languages. The council members, towering figures of various shapes and sizes, sat in their elevated seats, their cold, unfeeling eyes fixed on the lone figure standing in the center of the room. He was unlike anything they had ever seen, a human. Humans. The word itself was spoken with disdain in the galaxy. To the council, humans were nothing more than primitive creatures, driven by greed and violence. They were the lowest of the low, unfit to be part of the interstellar community. And yet, here stood one of them, calm and unafraid, in the heart of the most powerful gathering in the universe. The council leader, a tall, slender alien with shimmering blue skin, leaned forward. His voice echoed through the hall, sharp and mocking. "You dare stand before us, human? Do you not know what we think of your kind?" The man looked up, his eyes steady. He was not tall, nor did he have the imposing presence of the aliens around him. But there was something in his gaze, a quiet strength, a determination that made even the council members pause. "I know what you think," the man said, his voice calm but firm. "But you are wrong." A murmur spread through the hall. The council members exchanged glances, some amused, others irritated. The blue-skinned leader raised a hand, silencing the room. "Wrong? You, a human, dare to tell us we are wrong? Your species is a plague, a stain on the galaxy. You destroy everything you touch. You are nothing but filthy animals." The man did not flinch. "You judge us without understanding us. You see only what you want to see. But there is more to humanity than you know." The leader leaned back, a smirk playing on his lips. "Is that so? Then prove it. Show us why we should not wipe your kind from existence." The room fell silent again, all eyes on the man. He took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had expected this, but the stakes were higher than he had imagined. He had come here to change their minds, to show them that humanity was more than they believed. But now, his life, and the fate of his entire species, hung in the balance. "Very well," the man said, his voice steady. "I will prove it." The council leader gestured to a group of guards, who stepped forward and led the man out of the hall. The other council members watched in silence, some curious, others skeptical. They had seen humans before, and none had ever impressed them. This one would be no different. But as the man was led away, a strange feeling lingered in the air. It was as if something had shifted, something no one could quite explain. The council leader shook it off, dismissing it as nothing more than a fleeting thought. After all, what could one human possibly do to change their minds? The man was taken to a large, circular arena, surrounded by towering walls and filled with alien spectators. The air was thick with tension, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. They had come to see the human fail, to witness his humiliation. But the man stood tall, his eyes scanning the crowd. He knew this was his chance, his only chance, to prove humanity's worth. The council leader's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "This human claims to be more than what we believe. Let us see if he can survive the trial we have prepared for him." A gate at the far end of the arena creaked open, and a low growl echoed through the space. The crowd leaned forward, their eyes wide with excitement. The man turned to face the gate, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no weapons, no armor, just his wits and the strange artifact he had discovered on Earth. The gate opened fully, and a massive creature emerged, its eyes glowing with rage. It was unlike anything the man had ever seen, a monstrous blend of claws, teeth, and raw power. The crowd roared, eager to see the human torn apart. But the man did not move. He stood his ground, his mind racing. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. He closed his eyes for a moment, focusing on the artifact hidden beneath his clothes. It had saved him once before. He could only hope it would do so again. The creature charged, its roar shaking the ground beneath the man's feet. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the inevitable. But just as the creature was about to strike, the man's eyes snapped open, and he raised his hand. What happened next would change everything. Long before he stood in the alien arena, the man was just an ordinary person living on a dying Earth. His name didn't matter, not to the aliens, and not to the story. What mattered was who he was and what he had seen. He had grown up in a world torn apart by war, famine, and greed. The skies were gray, the oceans polluted, and the people desperate. But even in the darkest times, there was a spark of hope. And that spark had led him to the discovery that would change his life forever. It started in the ruins of an old city, one of the many that had been abandoned after the last Great War. The man had been scavenging for supplies, like so many others, when he stumbled upon something strange. Buried beneath the rubble was a metallic object, unlike anything he had ever seen. It was small, about the size of his hand, with intricate patterns etched into its surface. It glowed faintly, as if alive. Curious, he picked it up. The moment his fingers touched the object, a surge of energy shot through his body. Visions flashed before his eyes, images of distant stars, alien worlds, and a history that had been hidden from humanity. He saw a time when Earth was not a wasteland, but a thriving planet, respected and admired by other species. He saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the mistakes that had led to humanity's downfall, and the truth that had been buried for centuries. When the visions ended, the man was left breathless, his mind racing. He didn't understand everything he had seen, but one thing was clear: humanity was not what the galaxy believed it to be. They were more, much more. And he had been chosen to prove it. The artifact gave him abilities he had never imagined. It enhanced his strength, speed, and intelligence, but more importantly, it gave him a sense of purpose. He knew he couldn't stay on Earth, not when there was so much at stake. He had to leave, to find the aliens who had judged humanity and show them the truth. Leaving Earth was not easy. The man had no ship, no knowledge of space travel, and no way to contact the aliens. But the artifact guided him. It led him to an ancient, hidden facility deep underground, where he found a small spacecraft, untouched for centuries. The ship was old, but it was functional, and it was his only hope. As he prepared to leave, the man thought about the people he was leaving behind. He had no family, no close friends, just the memories of a world that had forgotten how to dream. But he knew that if he succeeded, he could give them a future worth fighting for. He could give humanity a second chance. The journey to the alien world was long and lonely. The man spent most of his time studying the artifact, learning its secrets and preparing for what lay ahead. He didn't know what he would face when he arrived, but he was ready. He had to be. When he finally reached the alien planet, he was immediately captured. The aliens saw him as a threat, a primitive creature who had no place in their advanced society. They brought him before the council, where he was mocked and ridiculed. But he didn't care. He had come too far to give up now. As he stood in the arena, facing the monstrous creature, the man thought about everything he had been through. He thought about the dying Earth, the artifact, and the visions that had brought him here. He thought about the people he had left behind and the future he was fighting for. And he knew that no matter what happened, he would not give up. He would prove humanity's worth, even if it cost him his life. The alien planet was unlike anything the man had ever seen. The sky was a deep shade of purple, with two suns casting an eerie glow over the landscape. Towering structures of glass and metal stretched into the sky, their surfaces shimmering with light. The air was filled with the hum of advanced technology, and the streets were bustling with aliens of all shapes and sizes. It was a world of wonders, but also a world of cold, unfeeling logic. The man was brought to a massive building at the center of the city, the headquarters of the Galactic Council. He was led through a series of corridors, each more imposing than the last, until he reached a large, circular chamber. The council members sat in their elevated seats, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. The leader of the council, the same blue-skinned alien who had mocked him earlier, spoke first. "You are here because you claim to represent humanity. But we know what your species is. You are violent, selfish, and destructive. You have nothing to offer us." The man stood tall, his eyes meeting the leader's. "You judge us without understanding us. You see only what you want to see. But there is more to humanity than you know." The leader smirked. "Then show us. Prove that you are more than what we believe." The man was taken to a small cell, where he was left alone to wait. The walls were transparent, allowing him to see the aliens as they passed by. They were an advanced species, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. But there was something missing, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. As he observed the aliens, he noticed how cold and emotionless they were. They moved with precision and efficiency, but there was no joy, no compassion, no sense of community. They were like machines, programmed to follow orders and maintain their society. It was a stark contrast to humanity, with all its flaws and imperfections. The man began to wonder if this was why the aliens looked down on humans. Perhaps they saw emotions as a weakness, something to be eliminated. But he knew better. Emotions were what made humanity strong. They were what drove people to care for one another, to fight for what they believed in, to dream of a better future. Over the next few days, the man was allowed to explore the city under heavy guard. He used this time to learn as much as he could about the aliens and their society. He visited their schools, their workplaces, and their homes, observing how they lived and interacted with one another. What he saw only confirmed his suspicions. The aliens were efficient, but they were also lonely and disconnected. They had everything they needed, but they lacked the one thing that made life worth living: love. The man knew he had to show them the value of humanity, but he also knew it wouldn't be easy. The aliens were stubborn and set in their ways. They had built their society on logic and reason, and they saw emotions as a threat to their stability. But he had to try. He had come too far to give up now. One day, as he was being led back to his cell, he noticed a group of young aliens playing in a park. They were laughing and chasing each other, their faces filled with joy. It was a rare sight in this cold, emotionless world. The man stopped and watched them, a smile spreading across his face. One of the guards noticed and asked, "What are you looking at?" The man turned to the guard, his eyes filled with warmth. "I'm looking at the future." The guard frowned, not understanding. But the man didn't explain. He knew that words alone wouldn't be enough to change their minds. He would have to show them, through his actions, what it meant to be human. The day of the trial arrived, and the man was led to the center of the arena once again. The stands were packed with aliens, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. The council members sat in their elevated seats, their expressions cold and unreadable. The air was thick with tension, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. The blue-skinned council leader stood and addressed the crowd. "This human claims to be more than what we believe. Today, we will put his claims to the test. He will face a series of challenges designed to measure his worth. If he fails, he will prove that humanity is nothing more than a primitive species, unworthy of our attention. If he succeeds, well, we shall see." The man stood tall, his eyes scanning the crowd. He knew this was his chance to prove humanity's worth, but he also knew it wouldn't be easy. The challenges would be designed to break him, to expose his weaknesses. But he was ready. He had faced worse on Earth, and he had the artifact to guide him. The first challenge was a test of strength. A massive boulder was placed in the center of the arena, and the man was told to lift it. The crowd laughed, knowing that no human could possibly lift such a heavy object. But the man didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, placed his hands on the boulder, and focused on the artifact hidden beneath his clothes. A surge of energy flowed through him, and with a grunt of effort, he lifted the boulder high above his head. The crowd fell silent, their laughter replaced by stunned silence. The council members exchanged glances, some impressed, others skeptical. The man set the boulder down and turned to face the council, his expression calm but determined. The second challenge was a test of intelligence. The man was presented with a complex puzzle, a series of interlocking pieces that had to be arranged in a specific order. The aliens watched closely, expecting him to fail. But the man studied the puzzle for a moment, his mind racing. He had always been good at solving problems, and the artifact enhanced his abilities even further. Within minutes, he had solved the puzzle, the pieces clicking into place with a satisfying finality. The crowd murmured in surprise, and even the council members seemed impressed. But the blue-skinned leader was not satisfied. "These challenges are child's play," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Let us see how he fares in the final challenge." The final challenge was a test of morality. The man was presented with a difficult choice: he could save himself, or he could save a group of innocent aliens who had been placed in danger. The crowd watched in silence, their eyes fixed on the man as he considered his options. The man didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his eyes filled with determination. "I will save them," he said, his voice firm. The crowd gasped, and the council members leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. The man rushed to the group of aliens, using his enhanced strength and speed to free them from danger. When the challenge was over, the crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the arena. But the council leader was not impressed. "You have proven nothing," he said, his voice cold. "These challenges were designed to test your worth, but they have only proven that you are a fool. You risked your life for strangers, for no reason. That is not strength. That is weakness." The man turned to face the council leader, his eyes filled with fire. "You call it weakness, but I call it humanity. We care for one another, even when it costs us. That is what makes us strong." The council leader sneered, but before he could respond, a voice rang out from the crowd. "He is right." All eyes turned to a young alien scientist, who had been watching the trial with growing admiration. She stepped forward, her eyes filled with determination. "This human has shown us something we have forgotten. He has shown us the value of compassion, of selflessness. These are not weaknesses. They are strengths." The crowd murmured in agreement, and even some of the council members seemed to waver. But the blue-skinned leader was not swayed. "Enough," he shouted, his voice echoing through the arena. "This trial is over. The human has failed." The man was led away, but as he left the arena, he noticed the young alien scientist watching him with a look of admiration. He knew that he had made an impact, even if the council refused to see it. And he knew that this was only the beginning. The arena was silent, the tension so thick it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. The man stood in the center, his eyes fixed on the massive gate at the far end. He knew what was coming. The council had made it clear, this was the final challenge, the one that would determine his fate, and humanity's. The blue-skinned council leader stood and addressed the crowd, his voice cold and unfeeling. "This human has shown some unexpected qualities. But now, he will face the ultimate test. If he survives, we will reconsider our judgment of his species. If he fails, he will prove once and for all that humanity is nothing more than a primitive, unworthy race." The gate creaked open, and a low growl echoed through the arena. The crowd leaned forward, their eyes wide with anticipation. The man clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. The creature that emerged was a nightmare come to life. It was massive, with thick, scaly skin and glowing red eyes. Its claws were as long as the man's arms, and its teeth gleamed like daggers. It roared, the sound shaking the ground beneath the man's feet, and charged straight at him. The man didn't move. He stood his ground, his mind racing. He had no weapons, no armor, just his wits and the artifact hidden beneath his clothes. He knew he couldn't outmatch the creature in strength, so he would have to outsmart it. As the creature closed in, the man dived to the side, narrowly avoiding its claws. He rolled to his feet and sprinted across the arena, the creature hot on his heels. The crowd roared, their excitement growing with every passing second. The man's eyes scanned the arena, searching for anything he could use to his advantage. He spotted a loose piece of metal on the ground and grabbed it, holding it like a makeshift shield. The creature lunged at him again, and he raised the metal just in time to block its claws. The impact sent him flying, but he managed to land on his feet. The creature roared in frustration and charged again. This time, the man was ready. He waited until the last possible moment, then sidestepped and swung the metal piece with all his strength. It struck the creature's side, causing it to stagger. The crowd gasped, their cheers growing louder. But the creature wasn't done. It turned and lunged at the man again, its claws slashing through the air. The man ducked and rolled, barely avoiding the attack. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. He needed to end this, and fast. The man closed his eyes for a moment, focusing on the artifact. He felt its energy surge through him, guiding his movements. When he opened his eyes, he knew what he had to do. The creature charged again, its roar shaking the arena. But this time, the man didn't move. He stood his ground, his eyes locked on the creature's. At the last possible moment, he dived forward, sliding beneath the creature's massive body. As he did, he reached up and grabbed a loose scale on its underside. The creature roared in pain and thrashed wildly, but the man held on. He pulled himself up onto the creature's back and grabbed another scale, using it to climb higher. The creature tried to shake him off, but the man clung on, his determination unwavering. When he reached the creature's head, he took a deep breath and focused all his energy into one final blow. He struck the creature's skull with the metal piece, the impact echoing through the arena. The creature let out a final, deafening roar, then collapsed to the ground, lifeless. The arena fell silent, the crowd stunned into silence. The man stood on the creature's body, breathing heavily but victorious. He turned to face the council, his eyes filled with fire. The blue-skinned council leader stood, his expression unreadable. "You have proven your strength," he said, his voice cold. "But strength alone is not enough to change our judgment of your species." The man stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I didn't do this to prove my strength. I did it to prove that humanity is more than what you believe. We are not perfect, but we are capable of great things. We care for one another, we fight for what we believe in, and we never give up. That is what makes us strong." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the arena. Even some of the council members seemed moved, their expressions softening. But the blue-skinned leader was not swayed. "Enough," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "This trial is over. The human will be imprisoned until we decide his fate." The man was led away, but as he left the arena, he noticed the young alien scientist watching him with a look of admiration. He knew that he had made an impact, even if the council refused to see it. And he knew that this was only the beginning. The man was thrown into a cold, dark cell, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. He sat on the hard floor, his body aching from the trial, but his mind was clear. He had survived the challenges, but the real battle was just beginning. The council had made it clear that they would not change their judgment of humanity easily. But the man knew he had planted a seed of doubt in their minds, and in the minds of the alien public. As the days passed, the man used his time to reflect on what had happened. He thought about the young alien scientist who had spoken up for him, her eyes filled with determination. He wondered if she could be an ally, someone who could help him expose the truth about humanity and the Council's lies. One day, as he was sitting in his cell, he heard a soft knock on the door. He looked up, surprised, as the door creaked open. The young alien scientist stood there, her eyes scanning the corridor to make sure no one was watching. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "I'm sorry it took me so long to come," she said, her voice low but filled with urgency. "The Council is watching me closely. They don't trust me anymore, not after what I said during the trial." The man stood, his heart racing. "Why are you here?" he asked. The scientist hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Because I believe you. I believe that humanity is more than what the Council says. And I believe that there is something they are hiding, something about your species, about our history. I want to help you uncover the truth." The man felt a surge of hope. He had been alone for so long, fighting against impossible odds. But now, he had an ally, someone who could help him navigate this strange, cold world. Over the next few days, the scientist visited him in secret, bringing him food and information. She told him about the Council's history, about how they had come to power and how they had maintained their control over the galaxy. She also told him about the rumors of an ancient civilization that had once thrived, a civilization that had been erased from history. The man listened carefully, his mind racing. He knew that the artifact he had found on Earth was connected to this ancient civilization. He also knew that the Council had gone to great lengths to suppress the truth. But why? What were they afraid of? One night, the scientist came to him with a look of excitement in her eyes. "I found something," she said, holding up a small data device. "It's a record from the ancient archives, something the Council tried to erase. It talks about a species that once ruled the galaxy, a species that was known for its compassion, its creativity, and its ability to unite others. That species was humanity." The man's heart raced as he took the device. He knew that this was the key to proving humanity's worth. But he also knew that the Council would do everything in their power to stop him. "We need to expose this," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We need to show the people the truth." The scientist nodded, but her expression was grim. "It won't be easy. The Council controls everything, the media, the archives, even the minds of the people. If we're caught, we'll be executed." The man looked into her eyes, his resolve unwavering. "I didn't come this far to give up now. We have to try." The scientist hesitated, then nodded. "All right. I'll help you. But we need to be careful. One wrong move, and it's over." Together, they began to plan. They knew that they couldn't take on the Council directly, so they decided to start small. They would spread the truth through the people, one alien at a time. They would use the data device to show others the history that had been hidden from them, to show them that humanity was not the enemy. As the days turned into weeks, the man and the scientist worked in secret, gathering allies and spreading the truth. They knew that the Council was watching, that they were risking their lives with every step they took. But they also knew that they were fighting for something bigger than themselves, for the future of humanity, and for the soul of the galaxy. The man and the young alien scientist worked tirelessly, spreading the truth one step at a time. They started with those they could trust, aliens who had shown sympathy during the trial, those who had questioned the Council's judgment, and those who had secretly harbored doubts about their society. Slowly but surely, they built a network of allies, each one committed to uncovering the truth. One night, under the cover of darkness, they gathered in a hidden underground chamber. The room was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes, their faces filled with a mix of fear and determination. The man stood at the front, the data device in his hand, ready to share the truth that had been hidden for so long. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "What I'm about to show you will change everything. It will challenge what you've been taught, what you've believed your entire lives. But it's the truth, and it's time the galaxy knew it. He activated the data device, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed an ancient civilization, one that had thrived thousands of years ago. The images depicted a society filled with art, music, and innovation, a society that valued compassion, creativity, and unity. And at the heart of this civilization was humanity. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the hologram revealed the history that had been erased. They saw how humanity had once been a respected and admired species, how they had worked with other civilizations to build a galaxy filled with peace and prosperity. They also saw how the Council had risen to power, how they had manipulated the truth to maintain control, and how they had turned the galaxy against humanity. When the hologram ended, the room was silent. The aliens looked at each other, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. But slowly, the shock turned to anger, anger at the Council for lying to them, for manipulating them, for keeping them in the dark. The young alien scientist stepped forward, her voice filled with passion. "This is the truth," she said. "The Council has been lying to us for centuries. They've made us believe that humanity is a threat, that they are primitive and unworthy. But the truth is, humanity is more than what we've been told. They are capable of great things, and so are we." The room erupted into murmurs of agreement, the aliens nodding and whispering to each other. The man felt a surge of hope. He knew that this was just the beginning, but it was a powerful start. Over the next few days, the truth began to spread. The man and the scientist worked with their allies to share the data device with others, to show them the history that had been hidden. They used secret channels, underground networks, and even public displays to reach as many aliens as possible. The Council, of course, tried to stop them. They increased their surveillance, arrested anyone suspected of spreading the truth, and even launched a propaganda campaign to discredit the man and the scientist. But it was too late. The truth had already taken root, and the people were beginning to question everything they had been told. One day, as the man and the scientist were preparing for another secret meeting, they received a message from one of their allies. It was a video, showing a group of aliens protesting in the streets, demanding answers from the Council. The man watched with a mixture of pride and relief. The people were waking up, and there was no turning back. But the Council was not going to give up without a fight. The blue-skinned leader appeared on a public broadcast, his face filled with anger. "Do not be fooled by these lies," he said, his voice cold and commanding. "The human and his allies are trying to deceive you, to undermine our society. They are the true threat, and they must be stopped." The man knew that the Council would do everything in their power to silence him. But he also knew that the truth was stronger than their lies. He turned to the scientist, his eyes filled with determination. "It's time to take this to the next level," he said. "We need to show the people that the Council's power is not absolute. We need to show them that they have the power to change things." The scientist nodded, her expression grim but resolute. "It won't be easy," she said. "But we've come too far to stop now." The man and the young alien scientist stood at the edge of the city's central square, their eyes fixed on the towering Council building. The square was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes, their faces filled with anger and determination. The truth had spread like wildfire, and now the people were demanding answers. The man turned to the scientist, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This is it," he said. "This is our chance to show the Council that they can't control us anymore. This is our chance to change everything." The scientist nodded, her eyes filled with fire. "Let's do this." Together, they stepped into the square, the crowd parting to let them through. The aliens cheered as they passed, their voices echoing through the air. The man felt a surge of hope. He had come so far, faced so many challenges, and now he was standing on the brink of victory. As they reached the center of the square, the man raised his hand, and the crowd fell silent. He took a deep breath, his voice carrying across the square. We are here today because we have been lied to. We have been told that humanity is a threat, that they are primitive and unworthy. But the truth is, humanity is more than what we've been told. They are capable of great things, and so are we. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices filled with passion. The man continued, his words inspiring and empowering. The council has tried to control us, to keep us in the dark. But we are not afraid anymore. We know the truth, and we will not be silenced. As he spoke, the council building's doors opened, and the blue-skinned leader stepped out, his face filled with anger. He was flanked by guards, their weapons drawn, but the crowd stood their ground. Enough, the leader shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. This ends now. You will disperse, or you will face the consequences. The man stepped forward, his eyes locked on the leaders. We will not be silenced, he said, his voice firm. The truth is out, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. The leader sneered, but before he could respond, the young alien scientist stepped forward. She held up the data device, her voice filled with determination. We have proof of your lies, she said. Proof that you have manipulated us, that you have erased our history. The people deserve to know the truth. The crowd roared in agreement, their voices shaking the ground. The leader's face turned pale, but he refused to back down. You think you can challenge us, he said, his voice cold. You are nothing but a primitive species, unworthy of our attention. The man stepped forward again, his voice filled with fire. We are not primitive. We are not unworthy. We are humanity, and we are more than you could ever imagine. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices filled with passion and determination. The leader tried to speak, but his words were drowned out by the noise. He turned to his guards, but even they seemed unsure, their weapons lowering as they looked at the crowd. The man turned to the crowd, his voice carrying across the square. Today, we take back our future. Today, we show the council that they cannot control us anymore. Today, we stand together, as one. The crowd roared in agreement, their voices filled with passion and determination. The man felt a surge of hope. He had come so far, faced so many challenges, and now he was standing on the brink of victory. As the crowd surged forward, the council leader and his guards retreated into the building, their faces filled with fear. The man and the scientist led the way, their hearts filled with determination. They knew that this was just the beginning, but they also knew that they had already won. The council building, once a symbol of power and control, now stood as a monument to the people's victory. The doors were wide open, the halls filled with aliens celebrating their newfound freedom. The man and the young alien scientist stood at the center of it all, their faces filled with pride and relief. The blue-skinned council leader and his allies had been arrested, their lies exposed for all to see. The people had demanded change, and the council had no choice but to listen. A new government was being formed, one that valued truth, compassion, and unity. The man looked out over the crowd, his heart filled with hope. He had come so far, faced so many challenges, and now he was standing on the brink of a new beginning. He turned to the young alien scientist, his voice filled with gratitude. We did it, he said. We showed them the truth. The scientist smiled, her eyes filled with emotion. We did it together, she said. But this is just the beginning. There's still so much work to do. The man nodded, knowing that she was right. The road ahead would not be easy, but it was a road worth traveling. He stepped forward, addressing the crowd once more. Today, we have taken back our future, he said, his voice carrying across the square. But this is not just a victory for us. It is a victory for all species, for all those who believe in truth, compassion, and unity. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices filled with passion and determination. The man continued, his words inspiring and empowering. We have shown that no matter how powerful the lies, the truth will always prevail. We have shown that no matter how divided we may seem, we are stronger together. And we have shown that no matter how dark the world may seem, there is always hope. As he spoke, the crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. He took a deep breath, his voice filled with emotion. This is not the end. It is a new beginning. A beginning where we can build a galaxy filled with peace, prosperity, and understanding. A beginning where we can learn from each other, grow together, and create a future worth fighting for. The crowd erupted into cheers once more, their voices shaking the ground. The man felt a surge of hope, knowing that they had already won the hardest battle. The rest would come in time. As the celebrations continued, the man and the young alien scientist stepped aside, watching the crowd with pride. The scientist turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for showing us the truth. Thank you for giving us hope." The man smiled, his heart filled with warmth. "Thank you for believing in me," he said. "We did this together." The scientist nodded, her expression filled with determination. "We did. And we'll keep fighting, for as long as it takes." The man looked out over the crowd, his heart filled with hope. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that they had already taken the first step. And that was all that mattered.